gotta wait for Michael.
Worship, we're now live.
Good evening. Welcome to the City of Swift Current Council meeting for this 8th day of February 2021. We are going to move through the meeting this evening with the speaking order as Councillor Wall, Councillor Schweitzer, Councillor Tunklin-Weeb, Councillor Pluis, Councillor Friesen, and finally Councillor Christensen. For beginning here, I'm looking for a motion to adopt the agenda that was circulated to us by Madam Clerk last week. Could I have a mover, please?
Your Worship, I'll move the adoption of the agenda as circulated.
Thank you, Councillor Pluis, and a seconder, Councillor
Your
Tunklin-Weeb.
Worship. Oh,
Thank you, Councillor Tunklin-Weeb. Are there any questions or comments? We'll go through the starting list with Councillor Wall,
I have none, Your Worship.
Councillor Schweitzer,
Nothing here, Your Worship.
Councillor Tunklin-Weeb,
nothing for me.
Councillor Pluis,
No, it looks good to me. Thank you.
Councillor Friesen,
All good, thank you.
and Councillor Christensen.
Nothing, Your Worship.
Okay, I'm going to call for the vote here. It was moved by Councillor Pluis and seconded by Councillor Tunklin-Weeb. All those in favor, please raise your hands. This motion has been carried. Next, I would like to look for a motion to adopt the agenda, or hang on, we'll get this right, to adopt the minutes of the January 25th, 2021 council meeting. Could I have a mover, please?
Your Worship, I move that we adopt the minutes of the council meeting January 25th, 2021.
Thank you, Councillor Schweitzer, and a seconder, Councillor Wall.
I will second that, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. These minutes were provided to us by Madam Clerk last week. Are there any questions or comments? I will move through the speaking order again, starting with Councillor Wall.
None, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Schweitzer,
All good here, Your Worship.
Councillor Tunklin-Weeb,
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Councillor Pluis,
No, the minutes look good. Thank you.
Councillor Friesen,
All good, thank you.
and Councillor Christensen.
Nothing, Your Worship.
This motion by Councillor Schweitzer and seconded by Councillor Wall. All those in favor, please raise your hands. This motion has passed. We do not have any proclamations, declarations, or delegations, or public hearings, public notice matters, or orders this evening. We will move into the items for action. I will turn it over to the General Manager of Corporate Services to present the accounts.
And Your Worship, just before Ms. Cobbler hops on, I need to declare conflict in this set of accounts for the period of January 25th to January 30th, 2021. Standard Motors is a recipient of one of the disbursements, and as a partner and owner of Standard Motors, I obviously have a financial interest in that, so I will declare a conflict and ask to be put in the waiting room, please.
Thank you, Councillor Pluis. Please place Councillor Pluis in the waiting room until these set of accounts are complete. Thank you. Now, Ms. Cobbler, would you please proceed?
Thank you, Your Worship, and good evening, members of council. Enclosed are the General Revenue Fund disbursements for the period of January 25th to January 30th, 2021. I respectfully recommend that $2,107,973.64 in disbursements be approved, which includes a payment of $319,000 for payroll benefits, a payment of $949,000 for the purchase of energy, a payment of $63,000 for natural gas costs, payment of $198,000 for the purchase of an electric ice resurfacing machine for use at the Innovation Credit Union iPlex, which was approved in 2019, a payment of $21,000 for monies received on behalf of a third party, payment of $14,000 for the purchase of chemicals for use by the water treatment plant, payment of $37,000 for the purchase of postage, payment of $17,000 for quarterly support costs for the utility billing software system, payment of $17,000 for bronze casting services related to programming at the art gallery, which is fully recoverable through course fees, payment of $54,000 for transit and recycling depot operations for the month of December, a payment of $55,000 for costs associated with the replacement of a 2003 Chev Silverado half-ton truck for use by community services, a payment of $39,000 for landfill operations for the month of December, a payment of $105,000 for garbage collection services also for the month of December, and finally a payment of $15,000 for costs related to water distribution upgrades, landfill road upgrades, and the neighborhood number 5 concept plan.
Thank you, Ms. Cobbler. Could I please have a mover to accept these accounts?
Worship, I'll move that we accept these disbursements in the amount of $2,107,973.64 for the period January 25th to 30th, 2021.
Thank you, Councillor Friesen. And a seconder?
I will second that, your motion, your worship.
Thank you, Councillor Christensen. Once again, we're going to move through the order, beginning with Councillor Wall. Do you have any questions of Ms. Cobbler?
Yes, I have. It's on the bottom of the sheet here. It's been changed from, I guess we made an error last time. It's payment of $52,000 for the cost associated with the replacement of the 2012 Ford truck used by Waterworks Department. I would like to know what happened. What do we do with the 2012 Ford truck?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Wall. The 2000 Ford truck, I believe, has been placed in our surplus of inventory items that would be sold at a surplus sale going forward if it hasn't been deployed to another area within our fleet.
So you're saying it goes in surplus? Is it being used?
Perhaps Mr. Minkin could respond if you're aware of where that truck went for the Waterworks Department.
Good evening, your worship and members of council. I don't know the status of that truck at this time. I'll have to find out what happened to it and report back.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Minchin. That's all I have, your worship.
Thank you, Councillor Wall, and thank you, Mitch. I appreciate that, and we'll look forward to getting that report back on that. Councillor Schweitzer, do you have anything?
Nothing at this time, your worship. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tunnan-Weeb, anything?
Yeah, I had a couple of questions. The bronze casting services, so we pay up front that cost to the art gallery and we recoup it after they've ran their courses? Like, is this recouped during the year?
Mr. Jones, you're on mute.
There, I should be good now.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Thanks, your worship, through to Councillor Tutland. We actually had, this is the first time that we've ever had a bronze casting, and one of our staff, Heather Benning, has experience in this area. So we ended up receiving over $18,000 for holding this class for 9 students. And those 9 students paid between $1,460 and $2,800 to do the bronze casting. So it's been huge, and we've had a whole bunch of people asked to do another one. So we're going to plan another one later in the fall of this year as well too. So
Good. Is that done at Dixon School?
yes, it is. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And I had one other question about the number 5 concept plan. Can you explain what the number 5 concept plan is? I don't know if that's Mitch or Tim with work on the road out there.
Hi, Councillor Tutland-Weeb. I could answer some of that. The city owns about 100 or so acres of land in the very northeast corner of the city. So kind of kitty corner to the South Valley residential subdivision. And in, I guess earlier last year or late in 2019, we began a concept plan to see how that land could be developed, mostly into residential. And really what took place last year in 2020 as a first step was a heritage resource impact assessment to determine what kind of artifacts might be found, given that it's right next to the creek. And so that took almost most of last year. And of course, it's in the flood fringe, so to see how that could be developed. And now that that part of the project's done, we'll be moving into kind of the conceptual layout of how that property could be developed. So that's kind of the concept plan for that 110 acre area of property in the northeast area of the city.
And who's doing that concept plan?
That's WSP.
Okay, and is there a budget for that?
Yeah, it was approved, I think, 2 years ago. It's just with COVID and everything else, everything in that realm has kind of slowed right up. The majority of the work did require, or that was required, was with that heritage resource impact assessment, which the province required, and without that, we'd never be able to even move forward with the concept plan and ever develop that land.
So we have a ways to go yet then.
Just the conceptual design. A lot of the work has been done. So kind of layout of the roads and, a conceptual design for lot layouts for multifamily or single family residential areas. So
and do you have a cost, a projected cost, or has that already been signed, what that plan will cost?
The final, I believe, to totally complete the project is around that $40,000 remaining.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Solberg. That's all.
Thank you, Councillor Tuttlin-Weeb, and thank you, Mr. Solberg and Mr. Jones for your comments before. Councillor Friesen, do you have any questions or comments?
I guess just one comment. In the absence of Councillor Plewis, I will point out that nearly half of this total amount is the purchase of wholesale power from Sass Power that then our city Light and Power is able to resell. And just to say, I'm pretty thankful that we have our power running and everything going well here today, given the cold weather.
Thank you, Councillor Friesen. That's good to have somebody point that out when Councillor Plewis is not available. Councillor Christensen, do you have any questions or comments?
Just a clarification. We have a payment of $198,000 for the purchase of an electric ice resurfacing machine. I'm presuming that's a Zamboni.
Your worship, through to Councillor Christensen, yes, it is. It's not a Zamboni, though. It's an Olympia.
Okay, well, sorry, yes.
But it is a resurfacer, yes.
Just again, curiosity. I realize it's an old decision. It's just coming to us now. But what would be the upcharge from the standard propane one that usually gets run to an electric one?
It's probably in the area of $40,000 to $50,000, Councillor Christensen. The nice thing about the electric one, it's the first one we've ever had in Swift Current. We've talked about using one for quite a few years, but we've let everybody else get the bugs out of it. And now what it projects is that per flood will cost about 35 cents, whereas before a per flood is $3.50. And it has a laser leveler on it as well too, so that any operator doesn't have to be as precise, as we like to keep our ice surface at about 1.5 inches. And now with this laser level, it'll do that. So we're auditioning it at the iPlex right now, and the plan would be in 2 or 3 years we have listed for a replacement at Fairview Arenas, where we would use on a twin arena. But we have to get the staff used to it, because if you don't plug it in on a tournament day, we would be doing probably up to 12 floods a day, and the battery will die and it won't work. So a lot of the twin arenas have told us that. So just make sure that it's plugged in between floods and also overnight. And people have had great luck with it. And I know our staff is really pleased and encouraged by how it rides and drives and performs.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councillor Christensen. And Mr. Jones, I have a follow-up question to that then. So it costs 40 or 50,000 more. Was there a payback on that with the 35 cents to $3.50? Like, I mean, in a normal season, how many times would we flood the ice with that machine?
Well,
400 or 500, or, I mean, not this year because it's different, but in a normal season.
Well, on a busy day, like that's 12 floods per arena if we're doing on the Fairview Arena. and you can do the math on it. The one nice thing about an electric machine is because you're not dealing with as much motor and it's electric and it's less use, is the projection is that ice resurfacer will last at least twice as long, if not more. So what we're trying to do is determine exactly, that's the literature put out on it, that it'll do a flood for 35 cents a flood. So what we're trying to do is determine if that's the truth, and then I'd be able to give you more accurate numbers later, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jones. That's interesting. I didn't thank you, Councillor Christensen, for bringing that up. It's a good point. And when we go forward in energy conservation, it's something we do need to look for or look towards. At any rate, I'm going to call for the question here. This was moved by Councillor Friesen and seconded by Councillor Christensen. All those in favor, please raise your hands. This motion has passed. Please return Councillor Plus from the waiting room. Welcome back, Councillor Plus. Next, I'm going to turn this over to the General Manager of Infrastructure and Operations to bring his report on the water treatment plant residual management scope change. Mr. Minkin, if you would.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is, of course, the water treatment plant residual management scope change. Under the Department of Fisheries and Oceans and the Saskatchewan Water Security Agency's regulations, the water treatment plant is required to collect and dispose clarifier sludge and chlorinated filter backwash water in accordance with updated environmental standards. Currently, the waste is discharged into the Swift Current Creek. The Water Security Agency requires completion of the residual management system by March 31st of 2022. A request for proposals for the residual management project was sent September 2019 to the following engineering firms: AECOM, MPE Engineering Limited, and Golder Associates for preliminary engineering, detailed design, and tender documents, tender, contract administration, and a hydraulic model review to ensure the preferred residual disposal location, lift station number 11 at the Chinook Gulf Station, would not impact the sanitary system negatively. MPE Engineering Limited was the lowest bid and was awarded the design in early March of 2020. During the preliminary design phase, it was determined through hydraulic modeling of the sanitary system that neither lift station 11 nor the sanitary gravity sewer have adequate capacity to accommodate the residuals from the water treatment plant. At that point, MPE explored multiple alternatives to discharge. The first one was the 6th Avenue Southeast and Railway Street East. This location would have adequate capacity for flow, but would be very costly and difficult to run the force main, the additional 1,100 meters north on 6th Avenue Southeast due to a crowded in-ground infrastructure. Second location that was looked at was Aberdeen Street East and 5th Avenue Southeast. This location would be very close to the maximum capacity with added flow from the water treatment plant residuals and is not ideal due to the possible future development of the Oman School site. The third option looked at was Knight Crescent and Fenton's Drive. This location has been chosen due to the sanitary main capacity. This tie-in point utilizes a 375 millimeter sanitary sewer main that services the McIntyre Industrial Park. The sanitary sewer main will have ample capacity for the water treatment plant residuals and the industrial park sanitary requirements. A 1800 millimeter force main will be installed to pump the residuals from 1800 meter force main will be installed to pump the residuals from the water treatment plant. So 1.8 kilometers. The original contract award will provide the geotechnical investigation at the water treatment plant and the detailed design for the pumping station, the access road, and residual and sanitary modifications. With the change in scope, there will be an additional detailed design, geotechnical investigation, and site inspections which relate to the altered pipeline alignment. The scope change will also include project management, the water security agency permitting. MPE Engineering, as the engineering of record on this project, has quoted the additional fee of $158,152, PST included, GST excluded, for the scope change, half of which is associated with the crossing of the CP rail spur line, which is in the amount of $79,200, which was not in the original project scope. The scope change is fully funded through the 2020 capital budget. The construction of the water treatment plant residual management project is budgeted in the 2021 capital budget for an additional $2 million. It is therefore respectfully recommended that council enter into a professional services agreement with MPE Engineering Limited of Saskatoon for an additional fee of $158,152, PST included and GST excluded, for the water treatment plant residual management engineering services, and that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to sign the agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Mencken, for that long-winded report. We appreciate that. Now, council, I will be looking for a motion on this. Could I have a mover? Councillor Tunlin-Weed, please.
I move that council enter into a professional services agreement with MPE Engineering Limited of Saskatoon for an additional fee of $158,152, PST included, GST excluded, for the water treatment plant residual management engineering services, and that the mayor and the city clerk be authorized to sign the agreement.
Thank you, Councillor Tunlin-Weed. Could we have a seconder, please? Councillor Schweitzer.
I'll second that, your worship.
Thank you very much. Now, are there any questions or comments pertaining to this report? Councillor Wall, if you would.
Thank you, your worship. First of all, Mr. Mencken, have we used this company before? And then what has been the result of that?
Yes, we have used them, and we've had positive results. They're a reputable firm.
So when I read from your report, they also do the tendering. Is that correct?
That is correct. They will prepare the tender documents, as well as participate in the evaluation of the tender. It'll be posted through our purchasing, posted on the Saskatchewan government website, as well as our own sources, so that we have the maximum exposure to companies that would be wanting to build this project.
Thank you, Mr. Mencken. Another question I have, you're asking for $158,000. Do you know what the original amount was that we used for engineering fees?
Yes, the original award was $99,377.
So the last question here, pardon me for my crazy question. The $2,000 is how did they arrive at? I mean, $2 million. How did they arrive at that?
That is done through an estimate based on, and these estimates are based on like construction projects, usually in our area, because our area tends to have different pricing than, say, work that's done in Regina or Saskatoon or other areas of the province. So when they put together the preliminary cost estimates, they try to use previous projects that were in our area to put the estimates together.
So what you're saying is it could go higher, it could go lower. It's just an estimate.
That is correct.
Thank you. That's all I have, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wall. Councillor Schweitzer, anything?
No, nothing at this time. Very detailed report from Mr. Minkin. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Tundon-Weed.
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Pluis.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. Thanks, Mr. Minkin, for the report. You know, a couple things that stood out to me here was first of all, you know, we had lots of talk about things during the election, and of course, since this new council came on board, and in the last council as well. But I think this is a really great example of the answer to the where does the money go when you're sitting around the council table. You know, this is an engineering fee now, but we're also looking at an additional budget of $2 million, as Councillor Wall pointed out, for this in this capital budget year. This is the stuff that's not sexy. This is the stuff that isn't fun projects. This is the stuff that ensures, you know, these are the kinds of projects that are in the ground. You don't see them. You don't want to see them. You want to just have faith and trust that when you flush the toilet, that your problems disappear. This is the kind of report that makes that happen. You know, just one great example of how these infrastructure dollars are just so massive that we deal with. This is exactly what we're going to be talking about, these sorts of projects, this one and many, many more, when we sit around the budget table later this week. There are no easy decisions here. This is not a job, you know, where the decisions are obvious, necessary, or they come to you, but they're all necessary. And you know, unfortunately, we have an infinite list of needs and a very finite ability to get those things done. So, you know, that was one thing that really stood out to me is, you know, when we're wondering about, holy smokes, you know, this is a lot of money that we churn through in the city's budget every year. You're absolutely right. But this is the type of project that by and large makes up city budgets. It's not the fun stuff. It's not the sexy stuff. I wish it was a pool. Unfortunately, it's not the kind of pool that you swim in. It's the kind of pool that we're using for utility work. So that leads me to my second point, Your Worship, that, you know what, this is another great example of something that we deal with as a council all the time, is regulatory change. So the entire purpose of this report, or the entire purpose of the overall project, is that environmental standards changed. So, you know, at the flick of a pen in a legislature, or in the bureaucracy somewhere, we've had a regulatory change, and that regulatory change has meant very significant things for the city of Swift Current. In this case, it means that we have to change the way that we deal with effluent. And again, that's not free. So as I alluded to before, these are the massive dollars that get churned in a city budget every year. And sometimes they're not the decisions that we like to be making. They're decisions that are thrust upon us because of regulatory change. So, you know, I want not necessarily a council here. I think everybody here already understands that, but those folks that might be listening at home, to just gain a bit better appreciation for the job it is that we're asked to do as councillors, because these are the things that we deal with: massive infrastructure needs in dollars, and regulatory changes that don't necessarily let us make the decisions that we would like to make in terms of where those funds flow, but where other levels of government say that they need to flow. So with that, Your Worship, I just, I guess by way of education, I just wanted to talk a little bit, and I apologize for taking so much time, but I felt it was a good opportunity to raise those points. Those things aside, they're required, so I'll support the report. But I wanted to say that with those sort of, just so people don't think we're just throwing our support behind these projects just because they get asked for. We have to support these projects because they're required by legislation.
Thank you, Councillor Pluis. You did take my, I was going to talk about that at the end of this report, but it is something that has been mandated by the province. We have no choice in it. This one is an easy decision, even though it's $2 million, because we have to do it. Otherwise, they shut our water treatment plant down next year, basically. So thank you, Councillor Pluis. Councillor Friesen, any comments or questions?
Well, yes, thanks, Your Worship. I guess for me, when I looked at this, I found it was unfortunate that we are going to have to spend another $160,000 in engineering costs. But in saying that, I'm pretty happy we found out now that they, they checked this, they found out that we needed to move it to a different location. And because otherwise, if we could have spent $2 million and had a big problem when we were done. So certainly I'm supportive of this, and as agree with all the points that Councillor Pluis made as well when it comes to keeping up with the regulations.
Thank you, Councillor Friesen. Councillor Christensen, anything?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, we have no choice but to proceed with this project due to the updated environmental standards, and I, of course, would be supporting a motion. I just wonder if this is an instance where if we had a certified city engineer, would we have been able to do some of this work in-house and possibly have saved a little bit of this money by doing it ourselves?
Mr. Macon, I think that might be yours to answer.
You bet. This project's been a particularly difficult one. We've been working at it for a number of years. The requirement was there back in, it was identified to us back in 2014. So we've looked at numerous options. That's, kind of the preliminary side of things that was done previously. We've looked at numerous, this particular preliminary engineering looked at 3. We had another options report that looked at another possible 6 different types of solutions. So it's been a particularly difficult one. This is one again where I've spoken before of needing a multidiscipline approach. So I think it would be difficult in this particular project to have a single discipline engineer be able to design this project. MPE and some work that AECOM did previously on an options report required multiple disciplines to be able to provide those solutions. So this is one that likely wouldn't have been able to be completed by a single engineer.
Thank you, Mr. Macon.
Is that all, Councillor? Thank you for all your comments. I have a couple of questions, Mr. Minkin. First one's real easy. 375 millimeters, the size of that sanitary sewer. I'm old school, like 12 or 14 inches. Is that correct?
I'm old school as well. So I believe that would be 16 inches, I believe.
Okay, that makes more sense. Thank you. And then the second one, the $2 million extra capital for the line. While I was reading through the budget, I also happened to see we have another $550,000 to spend on the lift station upgrade that we're going to dump that line into. Was that correct, or did I misread that budget item?
No, you have that correct. Lift station number 7 requires a reroute. For two reasons. One is for additional growth, both by Cypress Point and as well as the South Monroe Industrial. So those lift stations require upgrades due to those reasons, as well as now with the additional flow from the water treatment plant residuals, those lift stations will need to be upgraded as well. So there's sort of 2 drivers for those projects.
Thank you, Mr. Minkin. So really this project with engineering, lift station upgrade and the 1,800 meters of sewer line, it's going to run us just shy of $3 million as the taxpayer here. And not just the 2 million or 2.25 for the engineering, but another 550 for that lift station. Okay, now I'm going to call for the question. This was moved by Councillor Tutman-Weeb and seconded by Councillor Schweitzer. All those in favor, please raise your hands. This motion has passed. I will now turn it over to the city clerk to present the next report.
Thank you, Your Worship and members of council. The subject of this report is Prairie Pioneers Independent Housing Authority Board appointments. Prairie Pioneers Independent Housing, otherwise known as PPIH, is a board incorporated pursuant to the Nonprofit Corporations Act 1995 and provides housing for seniors. The membership is made up of 21 municipalities, including the city of Swift Current. In preparation for their upcoming annual general meeting, which will be held on Wednesday, March 24th, it is necessary to have 7 representatives appointed who will serve as the city's voting delegates at the AGM, as well as any special meetings of shareholders throughout the year. It is therefore respectfully recommended that the following individuals be appointed as the city's representatives for the Prairie Pioneers Independent Housing effective March 24th, 2021, and to continue until the day preceding the annual general meeting in 2022. Councillor Wall, Councillor Christensen, Councillor Pluis, Councillor Friesen, Carrie Cobbler, Jackie Schlamp, and Betty McDougall.
Thank you, City Clerk. I appreciate that. And I'll be looking for a motion to move this. Could I have someone pass that?
Yes,
Councillor Wall?
yes, thank you, Your Worship. I will move the recommendation by the city clerk.
Thank you, Councillor Wall. Seconder, please.
I'll second that, Your Worship.
Oh, Councillor, we had a couple of hands going up, but Councillor Friesen seconded. Now, are there any questions or comments concerning this? And Councillor Wall, you're up first.
I have nothing, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Schweitzer?
No, looking at that, that's an impressive roster. We'll be well represented.
I think so too. Councillor Tutman-Weeb?
I agree with Councillor Schweitzer. Nothing at this time for me.
Thank you. Councillor Pluis?
No, this is an annual report, something that we appoint to every year. And as Your Worship and Councillor Wall know, it's generally a good meeting where we get to learn a lot about a pretty important organization in our community, Prairie Pioneers Independent Housing. So looking forward to seeing what's been happening there over the last year and representing the city at it. Thanks, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Councillor Pluis. Councillor Friesen, anything?
Nothing further. Thanks, Your Worship.
And Councillor Christensen?
Nothing, Your Worship.
Thank you very much for all your comments. This motion was moved by Councillor Wall and seconded by Councillor Friesen. All those in favor, please raise your hands. This motion has passed. Madam City Clerk, please proceed with your next report.
Thank you, Your Worship and members of council. The subject of this report is Swift Current Main Street Board appointment. There are various boards and committees within our community that have a member of council serving during their term of office. Appointments to such boards and committees are normally established prior to the beginning of the year or as vacancies occur. Council appointments for current boards and committees were made in December of 2020 and were for a 2-year term, namely 2021 and 2022. Since these appointments were made, it was noted that the Swift Current Main Street Board did not have a member of council appointed. Therefore, it is respectfully recommended that Mayor Bridle be formally appointed to the Swift Current Main Street Board until the end of 2022.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Council, I'll be looking for a motion on this. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Christensen?
I move that Mayor Bridle be formally appointed to the Swift Current Main Street Board until the end of 2022.
And a seconder, please. Councillor Pluis?
I'll be happy to second that, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. Now, are there any questions or comments concerning this report? Councillor Wall, you're up.
Yes, I'm sure, Your Worship, that you'll be very well accepted at this committee.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wall. Councillor Schweitzer?
This is actually a board I've had the pleasure to serve on in the past, and it's a very dynamic and exciting thing to be a part of. And I'm confident you'll add a lot and enjoy your time on that board, Your Worship.
Well, Councillor Schweitzer, I wish I would have known that before. I took this on because I felt that everybody was so loaded down with boards. I thought I should. I know I'm on every board if I want to be, but I could have put you on there, Councillor Schweitzer. So darn. Anyway, thank you.
I'll happily cover a meeting or two for you, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. Councillor Tutman-Weeb?
I'm just wondering, has there never been a representative of council on that board?
City Clerk, if you could.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Tutman-Weeb. Yes, Councillor Bowditch previously sat on that board. for his 2-year term. And I believe before him was Councillor Daigle.
Okay, so it was just missed in this go around.
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
Thank you, Councillor Tundon-Weeb. Councillor Pluis, anything? No?
Nothing for me, thanks.
Thank you very much. Councillor Friesen?
No, I'm sure you'll do a great job. Thanks, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Councillor Friesen. Councillor Christensen, anything?
Nothing for me, Your Worship.
Thank you for all your comments or lack of comments for the last 3 or so. I appreciate that. Anyway, thank you. This was moved by Councillor Christensen and seconded by Councillor Pluis. All those in favor, please raise your hand. This motion has passed. Moving down the agenda, there are no reports for information or bylaws or any items under unfinished business, new business, or under communications, nor is there any in-camera requests. Therefore, we will continue with reports of council members, and I will open the floor to councillors for questions, comments for administration, or statements they wish to make. Once again, starting with Councillor Wall.
Thank you, Your Worship. First of all, I have two of them actually. I would like to know the cost of the snow removal on the last snow dump that we had, which would include the contract and our own people working around the clock and overtime. Could you please give me that answer, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wall. I will give you a breakdown of how we dealt with the snowstorm that was started in mid-November and was almost to the end of December by the time we finished cleaning up. So each year, Transportation Department budgets for snow and ice control, and this budget consists of two major components. That's the internal costs, so that's our city labor and equipment costs, and any external costs that we may have, so contracted labor and equipment. Budgeting for the internal labor is done at the department level, since there are multiple departments that work within that snow removal budget. But budgeting for internal equipment is a projected allocation based on our overall equipment fleet and historic charges. So typically we try to do as much as we can with internal resources, because it's always the most cost effective. But there are times when they're not adequate to deal with major snow events, such as the one that began in November. And so we have some additional funds to provide for contracted labor and equipment. Now, in a typical year, I looked back at a 10-year history, and in a typical year, our total costs are somewhere in around the $450,000 for an entire year. So basically 2 parts of a snow season, one through January through March, and then again, October through December. For 2020, we had a budget for external contracted resources at $85,500. So that kind of gives you the background now. As a result of this 2020 blizzard or snow event, both our internal and external costs exceeded our budget. So for that event, as you would expect. So the total snow and ice control in November and December actually was $496,305, of which we expended $165,500 in external contracted labor and the results. So obviously the internal labor and equipment was utilized for the majority of the work. Now it was greater than a typical year, but because it was all within our budgets. There's no major budget implication. It's just a reallocation of where people worked. So the net result on the external stuff was we were over budget by about $80,000. which will be reallocated from other areas within that operating budget that went unspent. So I hope that answers your question, or if you have others, I will try to answer.
Actually, it doesn't answer the question. I was asking for the 2021 for the last one that we had a 2-foot drop
Yep.
of snow, and that was, I don't know, 3-4 weeks ago. So that's what I was asking.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So the total was $496,305, of which $165,500 was external contract.
But on here, you say it's for November and December.
Yeah, well,
On the report that I get. On the report that I got is for November and December.
yes,
2020.
yes. So I mean, that storm, while it came in the middle of November, we worked on it till the end of December or close to Christmas time.
If I may, please, Mr. Minkin, Councillor Wall is asking for the storm that we just had, the blizzard we had 2 or 3 weeks ago. Is that correct, Councillor Wall?
Yeah, absolutely, that's right. Yeah.
Not the big one back in November. He was wondering how much we spent in January here cleaning snow.
Oh, in January. Oh,
Yes.
I'm sorry. I thought the question was related to the November storm when the question was passed on to me. So I apologize. I will have to pull those numbers together.
Thank you, Mr. Minkin.
Is that all, Councillor Wall?
Oh, well, I have another one here. It's just sort of some information. Our city, I believe our city should continually be looking for efficiencies. And I hope that's what we're doing. I'm not sure that is happening right now. And so I'd like to talk about the weekly garbage pickup that we have in Swift Current. I was talking to somebody in Regina City Hall, and they pick up the garbage every second week. And that starts in November and it goes to April. So I think there would be a considerable amount of savings and efficiency by this. It also would promote recycling. And I hope that we can carry and discuss this further at other council meetings. And that's all I have, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Wall. I don't think that's a bad idea. I'm not sure tonight we want to get into it because I think we could talk about that for quite some time. And it's a great idea that we should be bringing forward to we can't bring it to our next meeting, GPC meeting on the 18th, but maybe for March the 3rd, that'd be a good topic to be discussing because we should be looking for efficiencies in that garbage in Regina. It will be interesting for me to see how it works in Regina. Thank you very much. I have one more question concerning the snow, or one comment, Mr. Minkin, if I could. I did want to say we had a bunch of contractors cleaning snow back in November, December, and I know that one of the oil field contractors gave us a grader for anywhere from 25 to 30 hours. I believe it was Mastech. And just as mayor, I believe that's correct, Mastech. And as mayor, I just want to say a big thank you for them. They used their grader to clean our roads, and I understand they did not charge us or did not send an invoice into the city. They just did it as a corporate donation. And I just want to make sure that everybody is aware of that. Quite often we look at these oil field companies and they're just people here, they just out for themselves, and they're not all. These people, they seen us in trouble, the whole community in trouble, and they stepped up and put their grader on our roads with some direction from Mr. Minkin to clean the roads that they were required to. So just a big thank you. That is correct, isn't it, Mastech, Mr. Minkin?
That is correct. The information I was given, they provided a grader for 25 to 30 hours free of charge. We estimate that grader was probably running at about $260 an hour. So a very worthwhile help for us.
Yes, very much so. So if you see them sometime, or somebody that runs or works for them, or make sure you say a thank you as citizens and even as councillors. Councillor Schweitzer, do you have anything more or anything at all?
Yes, I do, Your Worship. As someone who works and puts in a lot of hours at the Innovation Credit Union IPLEX, I was all excited to have a discussion with Mr. Jones about that new Olympia, but was covered in our accounts, and Councillor Christensen asked the tough questions about that. But to anyone, the iPlex is being used a lot for walking. There's a lot of walkers in there, especially on cold days like this, and it's a magnificent looking new machine, that new Olympia, not a Zamboni, an Olympia. And kudos to the previous council for bringing that into our rinks. It's a very cool addition, and I know the boys at the iPlex are very, very excited to use that a bit more. Happening right now virtually, as most conferences are the Municipalities of Saskatchewan Conference, formerly known as SUMA. I've been logged in the past 2 days, taking in different workshops and seeing different presentations. It's very nice to see a young man from Swift Current, Sean Wiscar, really involved in the process there of helping run the virtual SUMA conference, and kudos to Sean there. This morning we had a keynote speech from Kendall Netmaker, who's a Saskatchewan entrepreneur, and he had a quote that really, really resonated. Your ability to lead will be dictated by your ability to forgive on the fly. And I thought that was a very, very moving and very, very potent quote, and I certainly appreciated his presentation today. Premier Moe addressed the delegates as well, and he touched on the possible end game for COVID, and that's getting everybody vaccinated. So it was nice to hear some encouraging words from Premier Moe. Congratulations to Roger Hayward, the mayor of Nacum, Saskatchewan, who's the new Municipalities of Saskatchewan president. He was elected today. I want to give a shout out to Max Noble, a fellow in Swift Current who's got a new thing up and running, the Swift Current Creation Station. And anything that helps keep kids involved during COVID, I think, is just spectacular. And the Creation Station is something that Max and his team, they're doing out of the goodness of their heart. They're looking for some funds to keep things going, but they're helping kids get creative. They've built flying machines out of styrofoam. And they have a February challenge with the kids where they're doing a Hershey's Kiss launcher to try and shoot your opponent's targets. So I love what Max and his crew are doing. I want to give a shout out to all the volunteer hockey coaches that are out there that are running 8-on-1 practices right now that are also keeping kids active. And an exciting new addition that's going to be coming to our community that I'm pumped about. Former Swift Current 57's manager, Joe Carnahan, is bringing a Hit Tracks machine to Swift Current. I know he's going to be working with Swift Current Minor Ball. And we've seen various virtual golf machines where you can go and you can play golf courses around the world virtually. Well, with the Hit Tracks machine, if you wanted to take batting practice at Fenway Park or Wrigley Field, you can do so. And that's something that's going to be coming to Swift Current in 2021 that Joe and his business partner, Taylor McDonnell, are working on. And I can't wait for that to be here as another outlet for kids as well. Recently attended a local library board meeting. I want to say congratulations to Courtney Stewart, who's been elected to serve another year as chair. Tanya Selk will be the vice chair, and Peggy Drinkle will act as the secretary. And a big shout out to a young girl named Bella Thompson. She's from Swift Current, and she recently made big headlines because Bella was born with some health issues, and she spent a lot of her young life in hospital, but she's taken to the social media platform TikTok and just continually puts out really, really positive messages to the point where she's received, I think one of her videos got 11 million views worldwide, and even got the attention and a mention from international recording artist Halsey. So Bella Thompson, TikTok phenom in Swift Current, who's helping make the world a brighter place in these dark and sometimes troubling times. So thank you very much for that, Bella, and for putting Swift Current on the map in a positive way. That's all I have for tonight, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Schweitzer. You say that's all you have, but you always have lots. So I appreciate it. A few things I knew, and I learned a few things tonight again from you. Thank you very much. Councillor Totman-Weeb, anything?
Yes. I attended the Municipalities of Saskatchewan session today. As Councillor Schweitzer said, Kendall Netmaker was a really good keynote speaker today. Tomorrow is going to be Doug Griffiths. He's the author of 13 Ways to Kill Your Community, which he led a session with the Chamber of Commerce that I attended. And people wonder, why do you say 13 ways to kill your community? Because that sounds awful. Well, of course, he means the exact opposite. Our Shop Local, Stay Local, Support Local campaign that we've been doing for the last 10, 11 months, well, it's going to be almost a year, is bang on with what he's saying to support your community, except he whittles it down to just be local. So you don't need 3 or 4 different hashtags. He just says be local is the campaign that we need to be looking at now. So he's keynote speaker tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to that. Thank you, Tim Marcus, for your presentation today on our award-winning Market Square. You did really good on that, and it's something to be proud of for Swift Current residents and for city admin. Premier Moe gave an update today on COVID and what the provincial government has been doing since last year and continues to do. He gave the status on the vaccines for Saskatchewan. His viewpoint was blatantly that Canada is lagging behind in receiving vaccines, and his comment was the feds overpromised and underdelivered. And I think we all feel that way. The Dr. Noble Irwin Foundation's cookie drive is on right now for Valentine's Day, and you have 2 more days to get your order in. It's $35 a dozen, but you got to remember it's a fundraiser, so that's how they make a little bit of money. It's one of the creative ideas that they're doing to fundraise during COVID. I want to say congratulations to Brock Friesen, who I have known since he was a little guy, because he and our son used to play hockey together. He is now the proud new sole owner of Rittingers. Barry Cuthbert has retired. Good to know that Mildred is staying on and she's going to keep Brock in hand there. So congratulations to Brock for that. And congratulations to Vic Govan at Govan Motors. They had their 25th anniversary as well. Another great local longtime business. I attended the Truth and Reconciliation meeting last week that I was talking about at last council meeting. The funding needs have all been filled for 3 days of action, March 3rd, 10th, and 17th. Senator Murray Sinclair is one of the guest speakers. He's going to be speaking in the afternoon, and those sessions are going to be recorded and played again in the evening, right, Michael? So that the community can listen to them. And Michael, you're going to be helping out the Truth and Reconciliation Committee with that. So that'll be available on the city's website, anything you want to know of what's taking place. They don't have a name for it yet, so I can't tell you what to look for, but it's their March event. And our city team is still taking donations for the center's coldest night of the year walk on February 20th. You can find our team posted on the city website or on our Facebook pages. There will be a link there. You can donate by credit card or PayPal on there, and I happily accept cash, whatever you can give me to walk. Michael's ahead of me, so I'm looking for those donations, and receipts are given for $20 or more. So I'll happily take a donation to walk for you. Lots of good things coming up, and that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tunlin. We learned a lot from you also tonight. Councillor Pluis, anything?
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. A couple things have been checked off my list by the others already, so I won't repeat other than just to say again, congratulations to Brock Friesen and Barry Cuthbert for Rittingers on his retirement after a long and storied career, of which he's basically dressed me for the last 20 years of my life. So I'm sure that Brock is going to be able to handle that just fine. But man, Barry is one of those guys you could walk into the store and he'd be like, "Hey, Ryan, this sweater would go perfectly with those pants I sold you 3 years ago." And I'd be like, "That's pretty great service." So I'm looking forward to continue to support Rittingers and Brock as the new sole owner. I also wanted just to mention that the Cookies for a Cause is happening. The folks at the Dr. Noble Irwin Healthcare Foundation are at it again. They're doing some great work in our community, and just as Councillor Tunlin-Weeb mentioned, it is a fundraiser, so $35 a dozen. But I can tell you, I've had Flatland cookies before, and they're very good. Even if you're not looking for just for a donation for a good cause, the value is right there at $35 a dozen for those cookies, I can tell you. So if you want to order those, you can get in touch with Sarah Adrian at the foundation, 778-7393, but you have to have them ordered by February 10th for delivery on February 12th. And again, that's for the renal dialysis unit right here at the Cypress Regional Hospital in Swift Current. And then the only other thing that I wanted to mention, Your Worship, and I'm just going to flip to a different screen here so I get all the details, is the Family Fun Week that's coming up starting on Family Day, the 15th of February. Everything from sleigh rides, which are already all booked out. So unfortunately, you can't book for those again, but that'll be a lot of fun for those who got in there. I Spy activities at the museum. So we've got some indoor activities. There's rec swim at the aquatic center. And that's actually free public swimming for everybody, sponsored by the Swift Current Kiwanis Club, as well as the city of Swift Current. So I want to say thanks to those folks for sponsoring that. We've got macrame lessons at the museum. What else do we have? The Swift Current Nordic Ski Club is going to be at the Chinook Golf Course from 12 to 4 on Saturday the 20th with some equipment available, so you can go give that a whirl. We got Croca Curl, public skating, outdoor skating, winter art camps, wellness bingos, all sorts of things for folks to partake in for the Family Day week. So yeah, lots of things to do in the city of Swift Current. Don't ever let anybody tell you there's nothing to do in Swift Current, because all you got to do is look for 30 seconds and you'll find more than you could possibly attend in any given day. And with that, just hoping everybody's staying warm out there and safe, and remember to help your neighbors if you can. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Councillor Pluis. And you saved a question I was going to ask Mr. Jones about that week of, I was going to have him explain that whole week. We have the city has arranged a whole bunch of things every day for children and families, which is a great week. Thanks for bringing that up. Councillor Friesen, do you have anything you'd like to say or add?
Yes, just a couple of things to add, Your Worship. First of all, just to let you know that I've had the opportunity to attend a couple of meetings of the Swift Current Creek Watershed Stewards, and it was a group I'd heard a bit about through being on council and in the media. But now that I've had a chance to attend a couple of meetings, I'm gaining a whole new appreciation for the group and what they do. And they're really focused on enhancing the water quality and the stream health of the Swift Current Creek, which is very critical to us here in Swift Current. And they work on education, and they have also monitor the water quality. And they have many projects that they work with landowners on, and oil companies and all kinds of folks, all these projects to ensure that our water remains safe. So I've gained a whole new appreciation for that group and the work they do. The other thing I'd like to do, and speaking of appreciation, is to mention that it is Teacher and Staff Appreciation Week for our education system. And these guys, I think, need an extra pat on the back this year. They've, had to step up and above to continue educating the children, sometimes online, sometimes some online, some in classroom. They have all kinds of COVID guidelines and rules that they're working within. And so I'd just like to say a huge appreciation to all the teachers and staff who are involved in educating our kids, and thank them very much. That's it. Thanks, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Friesen. Councillor Christensen, do you have anything to comment on or tell us about?
Just a couple things, Your Worship. I spoke about it at the last meeting. I just want to give another reminder that the Ag and X will be launching the Save Our Fair fundraising campaign, which is going to be a 50-50 draw. And that's going to launch in early March. I believe it's March the 3rd. So please, everyone, watch for that. And the other thing I wanted to mention was I just wanted to commend and give a sincere thank you to all of our citizens who've just been doing a wonderful job of keeping our COVID numbers low. I'm checking that number every day for our local stuff, as everyone is. And, we're consistently leading the province in the fewest cases since the holiday season. And just want to encourage everyone to keep it up and stay vigilant and help keep everyone safe. So that's it, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Christensen. I appreciate all the comments and information from all councillors. I did, every one of you has said something or a little bit about something I wanted to say about the conference from both Councillor Schweitzer and Councillor Tutman-Weeb. I too attended the conference today, but I did want to talk a little bit about the vaccination and COVID-19 that Councillor Christensen had talked about. And it is good. All our citizens have been masking up and cleaning their hands. and our rates are way down. And I know people say, oh, you're sparsely populated. Well, there's lots of other places in the province that are as sparsely populated as us, or even sparser, and their numbers are way higher. So I think it's kudos to all of our citizens for doing what we've been asked. The vaccination stuff, I have every week, there is a mayor's call with one of the ministers from the province that's responsible for us, Don McMorris. And I continually ask when we're getting vaccinations in Swift Current, and we're told we're doing such a good job that we're kind of on the end of the list for vaccinations. I have another call in the morning for an hour during coffee break at the conference. We have a 1 hour call with some Sask Health people. And I'm hoping they're going to tell us that we will be getting some vaccinations this next Monday. That's when we were supposed to be getting them if Canada gets them. So that's, we'll wait and see. Once I hear about it, I'll make sure. I'll let Swift Current Online tell us, and then tell us we're not getting them again. I'm not sure, but with any luck, we're going to get them next week. Is what the province has been telling us. And then I just want to make one more comment about the cold weather. We all know it. We live in Saskatchewan. Let's make sure that we help our neighbors, like Councillor Pluis said. Give somebody a hand if they need it. Keep ourselves warm. And when people tell us that green energy will keep us warm, we can laugh at them, like we talked about 2 weeks ago at minus 51 with the wind chill. We need something to keep us warm, and just thinking we're going to stay warmer does not work. We need natural gas and we need oil to do that. So thank you for everything. Now with that concludes our council meeting for the 8th day of February 2021. And I'm going to be looking for a motion to adjourn. Could I have a motion from someone? Councillor Schweitzer.
Your worship, I move to adjourn tonight's council meeting.
And a seconder, please.
I'll second that, Your Worship.
Councillor Wall. All those in favor? This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you. Goodbye.